Hi, guys. I am Dr. Nadine Collins, founder of the Spiritual Wellness Coaching Movement. Thank you for taking the time to be with me here today in this live training. This month, we'll be focusing a lot on really discovering who you are. And the topic for today, as we go through this training, is Who Am I? There's a game that I usually play when I actually, present on this topic, whether I present it to youth or to adults, is a game where you would put on the backs of people, you would stick on their back a name of a celebrity or famous person, and every participant in the room is able to walk around and they ask other people questions, and the only response that they're able to give is either a yes or no. For example, if on my back I have a tag that says Hillary Clinton, I would go to somebody and say, am I male? And the person would say no. Am I female? Yes. Then I'd ask more questions like, let's say, am I located in the Caribbean? No. Am I located in Mexico? No. Am I located in the US? Yes. Am I a politician? Yes. That kind of a thing. So people would go around the room. Sometimes I give 5 minutes to about 10 minutes based on the crowd. If we have like a smaller crowd or if we have hundreds of people, then I give much more time. And folks who are in that setting would be able to go around asking all of these questions. When we are done, of course, some people would have found out who they are, that is the person on their backs, and this person would be excited, or these people would be excited and everything. And then other people would be frustrated because they did not find out who they were. At the end of the process, I would call up a few volunteers to share what it was like going around that room asking people who you are. For those who found out who they are, they would have all of this excitement. I was excited and it was such a beautiful experience just to know. And for a lot of people, when they don't find out who they were, that is the person who was stuck on their back, they would be like, I was frustrated, I was angry because I didn't know, nobody was able to help me find out who I was. And people express in that short space of time so many different negative emotions that will link to them not finding out who they were. And that's just the person on their back, right? And so that game or icebreaker has really been instrumental for me in when I present and in teaching people about discovering who they are and the feelings that people experience in sometimes 10 minutes of that icebreaker are the actual feelings that persons in real life would experience when they go around interacting with different people, trying to find out who they are. So even though it's an icebreaker or a game for me, the reality is that in real life, people actually go through these. People are frustrated, they are angry, they feel, all sorts of negative feelings because they're not sure, like, how do I find out who I am? I'm really trying and I'm asking questions and I'm interacting with different people because you move around the room and I'm still not able to find it. And so now today we are looking at, this topic of who am I? And I think it is an extremely important topic if you really want to live your wow life, because you cannot truly live in your purpose if you do not know who you are. You cannot truly live in your purpose or have your impact on the world if you don't know who you are. You cannot live the life of, personal and professional fulfillment if you don't know who you are. Because there are many people who actually believe, for example, that they're living in their purpose. Sometimes even believe that they're making their impact because they are having some measure of success in what they're doing right now. They're living a life sometimes that was spoken of by somebody else. Somebody says to you, oh, you'd make a good doctor, or you make a good lawyer, or you'd make a good pastor. And sometimes people find themselves living out the dreams of other people. And at some point in the journey, recognize that they are not fulfilled from the inside. They are not feeling that peace in the work that they're doing because they're not living the life that God intended for them to live. They're not living their wow life. They're not living the destined life for them. And so even though in the eyes of others, sometimes they may be successful, deep down inside, sometimes you might be feeling so desperate because you know that you're missing out on something. I'm doing this. It's working. I am making the money I want to make on this job. I'm impacting the lives of others, but inside I feel as if something is missing, as if I am not living my best life now. Have you ever had that kind of feeling? If you have, you can probably just put a thumbs up so I know that, I'm not alone in that in the comment section. But many people are going through that kind of a thing. And so I have read and seen and heard of so many people who were in good jobs at some points, maybe not in so good jobs, but people who were having some measure of success. These are the stories that I want to focus on today as we look at who am I. And they would have left their high-paying jobs because deep down inside, they had a passion for something. They knew that their purpose was greater than the job that they were in. And they wanted to establish themselves outside of that, but sometimes don't know how because, of course, still searching for who they are. And at some point in these people's journey, they would have taken what we call sometimes a leap of faith, so that they could create their own because they knew who they were. That person may have had all of these things going for them, that good job, get to travel, maybe do things like impact people and all of that stuff. But I know who I am, so I know I'm here for more. And that person is saying, by their actions, by taking that leap of faith or that step in an unknown direction, that they knew who they were and they wanted to create their life around that knowing. I recently read a story about a man by the name of Bryan Adams, and his story really inspired me. So after Bryan worked in the staffing industry for a few years, he had developed a strong reputation, as a specialist in placing project managers in different jobs. He had gotten a new job, but just after 4 months of being on that job, his company was sold. At that time, Bryan was 39, and he had 2 children, and he had been commuting to work 1.5 hours each way every day. Bryan began to get frustrated with corporate life because he was wondering if he was the only one who was enjoying his job. Because what he realized on the job, there were other people doing the same work as him, but the attitude that they had toward the job and the zeal and so on, it was not there, and the attitude was not good. And so Bryan began to question whether or not he really wanted to stay in that job because he did not want to be pulled down by the negative energies and so on around him of the people he was working with. He got frustrated enough that he told himself that this was not a job that he signed up for, because what he was witnessing on the job, he did not even desire to go job hunting because he didn't want to get a job in another company and have to face the same thing, having bosses who may not be as driven as he was. I don't know if you could identify with anything yet in the story, because sometimes you might be in your own job, you might be in a position, and you might be so excited about what you're doing, but everybody else is doing it for another reason but you. You may be doing it to be fulfilled, to help people and so on, while somebody else who may just be doing it for the money would not have the very same attitude that you'd have to the job. That was kind of what Bryan was going through, right? So he said, I'm probably going to get, an uninspired boss to work with and people who don't have the kind of motor I have. And so after he reasoned that, he knew that he needed to get out of his job. He knew what he enjoyed and he decided to engage his passion. This is a real story. So in August 2014, Bryan took that leap of faith and he created his own company, his own IT project management company, and so on. In the first year alone, Bryan managed to bring in a revenue of 1 million. And since then, his company's revenue has been growing annually. So knowing who you are, which Bryan did, he knew what his passion was. He knew he had drive, he knew what his purpose was, and he knew where he was in his job. Even though he had developed such a great reputation, he would not be fulfilled being there. And so Bryan had to make that decision, and you have to make that decision too. So knowing who you are makes the difference in your life, because when you know who you are going to live in your purpose, and you're going to have that passion. So you will not just be living in autopilot, waking up every day, going to a job and going back home, feeling that frustration day after day, week after week, year after year, but still doing it because you don't know what else to do with your life. So knowing who exactly you are and how you are going to actually make your mark in the world would help you be in a better position to live a more fulfilled life. And so we're talking about who you are. And biology gives some striking, like, information about who you are in terms of your uniqueness and in terms of, your unique identity. So, for example, they say from 266 days from your conception to your birth, one single fertilized cell became a complex organization of some 200 million cells, and that is you. Each cell, if it's divided or copied, your unique genetic code and so on is what is uniquely you. So each one of us has about 10 to 15 billion brain cells, right? And if each cell were a person, they would populate 2 planets the size of Earth. That's crazy, right? Now, another thing that's unique about you, who you are, is that your heart began beating after 21 days when you were only 3 millimeters long. Who are you? Your mother's voice just after 16 weeks and so on. After you knew your mother's voice after about 16 weeks, and you also had your own unique fingerprint. And so there are many other unique things about you. These were just some basic biological things that make you unique and different to anybody else. So think of an adjective right now as you are here on this live training that uniquely describes you. I remember being in a program, and I use this as well as an icebreaker sometimes when I present on identity and stuff like that, and all trying to get people to mix at the beginning of a presentation to describe yourself using an adjective. So you can write your adjective down right now in the comments below. For example, I remember a young lady while I was in the UK 2 months ago, and I asked them to describe themselves, and she gave an adjective to describe herself. After we had made the round in the group, I looked at her face and I realized that she was either confused or was not content with that adjective. And so I pointed at her and I said to her, "You would like to change your adjective?" And she said, "How do you know?" I said, "Because I can see that." And so then she gave herself another adjective and said, "That's who I used to be." I said, "Well, that's who we are going to name you now, because we are going to speak that person back into your life, because sometimes things happen and it takes away from who you know yourself to be. It draws you out. It drains you emotionally and everything. And so now you are experiencing somebody who's really not you, but it's who you are seeing now. And so I want you to think deeply about how you would describe yourself using one adjective that begins with the first letter of your first name. And then I would like you to now work toward becoming that person, because it could be somebody you desire to be, or it could be somebody that you were, or somebody that you are now. But use that adjective to help you. And I use that so many times that I remember working with a group of young leaders at a university where I was. And up to today, almost 10 years later, these young leaders, who are my contemporaries, by the way, but we were leaders of youth, still use the adjective and their names as their Facebook profile names. And so these things actually live on for many people. And I want you to really look at that and begin to see yourself in the lens in which you're going to describe yourself today. And if you don't know who you are in that context, or what name you would like to, ascribe to yourself, maybe pray about it and see deep down inside, search yourself, what really describes me in one word that I can put with the first letter of my name and so on, and you can keep that. One psychologist, actually, I think he does work between psychology and sociology, and so on, Erik Erikson, he did some major work on the different stages in the lifespan of any human being, from conception to death and stuff like that. And according to Erikson's theory, he said that there were 8 stages in human development. One of the stages that are of particular interest to me, especially in dealing with the topic of who am I, is really the stage 5, where he talks about identity crisis versus identity confusion. That is the stage where people are searching for themselves. Now, when I studied psychology at school and we did that stage, we really focused on young people. We thought it was the stage of adolescence, and they're the ones searching for their identity, and they're the ones having identity crises and so on. But what I've realized as I've traveled around the world dealing with people is that this stage is, even though when it comes to the developmental aspect of it in terms of age and so on, it may seem to just be about young people and the age range. I've realized that many adults are at that stage as well. They're at a stage of searching for themselves because somewhere along the way they got lost or they never even knew who they were. So Erickson suggests that this stage characterizes, challenges and the crises that happens with adolescents. But like I said, I've seen it happen even with adults, regardless of their socioeconomic status, the educational levels, the different family structures, and so on. And I've seen and met so many successful women or gifted women who did not know where they were. I remember particularly speaking with two friends. One of them was married for almost 50 years. And when her husband died a few years ago, when we visited her a few months after his death and so on, she said that she had gotten into a deep depression after he died because she did not know who she was, because her entire life she had spent, of her marriage at 50 something years, 52 years or so, was really doing and living out the life of her husband, and everything she knew about herself was intertwined with him. And so when he died, she said, I had no idea who I was. And I'm in such a state of depression because now I'm really trying to find me. And so even adults, like I say, go through that. I remember another friend shared that she had gotten married very early in life, dropped out of college to get married. And only when her kids began to work on their master's degrees and so on, was she able to now focus on her and begin to ask herself, who am I and why she was here, and began now to study again and begin to find her purpose. So adults go through that. A lot of women go through it because somewhere along being wife and mom and being everything else to everybody, they lose themselves along the way. And so for varied reasons, we may find people going through these stages of identity crisis and so on. And so that's why looking at the topic of who you are as a woman, as you prepare to make your mark on the world, as you prepare to live your wow life, is really critical so that you can be able to make your unique impact. And so it's a common phenomena in a lot of societies where women, find themselves, not having their identities known to them sometimes because maybe they are fearful. They are fearful to break what is the status quo. Some of them are find themselves and then maybe, try to hide themselves because if I really show who I am, then I become a threat to my spouse. I become a threat to this person, or I become a threat to my boss. I become a threat to those around me. And so they try to hide who they really are, which is the purpose for which they are here. That passion, that drive, and that great purpose and so on, they kind of hide it. And these things go around a lot in so many societies in the world. But I think in the Christian context, it may be even more present because of how women have been taught, what the role is and what the place is of a woman and so on. And as a result, many women have stopped dreaming, some have stopped living, some have stopped aspiring, some have stopped reaching out and just resorted to live in that state of autopilot. Because that state is less confrontational, it's more peaceful, and it's safe. So many have settled for a life that is less than because they did not want to offend other people. And so for adolescents, it's pretty normal for them to explore paths so that they can develop a healthy identity. It's normal for them to begin to, with their friends, go around trying to find themselves as they try to fit in here and fit in there, and then come to the recognition that they're unique and they have it's normal for them. What is not normal is for us as adults sometimes not to know who we are, or to find who we are and then to hide it, or to not just not know it at all because it's hidden in somebody else's agenda or somebody else's identity. So it's time now for us to really work on exploring, time to recognize that you are created for more. You are here for more. God did not create you just to be someone's shadow, just to find yourselves hidden in somebody. God created you for greatness and for a specific purpose. That's who you are. And so we need to know and explore what is your divine design. What is that specific purpose, that God has in mind for you? And so I remember working with a group of young people when I lived in Asia, and most of them were around the age of 15 and from different parts of the world and so on. And I remember encouraging, them, both male and female, to recognize a few things about their identity so that they can understand that finding who you are should not threaten you or threaten anybody else. So one of the things about identity is that it's multidimensional. If you are unique and so on, and everybody else around you is unique, and we are different, and you do not have to force yourself to fit in or to be like anybody else. Just accept the uniqueness of who you are. You need to also be excited about independent thinking, because the Bible itself says that God has given us, that kind of power. One writer says God has given us a mind, powerful mind that is akin to thinking, and we should not strive to be mere reflections of other men's thoughts, but really embrace the fact and the idea that God has given you a beautiful mind, and you can explore who you are through your thinking and not be afraid, because when you find out who you are in terms of your purpose and why you are here, that this thing would be offensive. And another thing is that it's okay to examine different perspectives and ask questions in the process of really trying to seek out who you are. It's very important for you to be able to do that, because sometimes we are boxed in the way we think, and we only see things in a particular light, and we cannot think outside of that box. I know what it's like being stuck in that kind of a way, just seeing things from one angle, not being open and willing to explore other things because I only see myself in this context. It has taken a lot of work, a lot of years, to recognize that who God created me to be, who I am and what I'm here for, is something that is healthy for me to know, and it will only lead me in a path of being able to be a better person to everybody that I come into contact with. If I only see myself in one context and one setting, and I'm unable to open myself, like I remember being afraid just to be on camera like I am now. I didn't want to get filmed. Even when I started doing international speaking many years ago, I didn't want to get filmed, because I'm thinking if I get filmed and if I'm out there, then I'm open to criticism. I make mistakes when I'm on the camera, because I don't have a script and I just speak, and I'm thinking, no, I don't want this. It was uncomfortable for me. But then I remember when that moment that came for me, when God actually kind of put it in my heart to realize this is the time, you have to do it. And so I recognize, even having a conversation with a very good friend of mine a few weeks ago, who has been in ministry for maybe almost 15 years, very powerful speaker, who himself, like me, does not really want to put himself out there on camera, because he would look at it and he would, critique himself. I mispronounce these words, I do this and I do that. And we all might find these excuses. But the truth is, you are making an impact on the world. In the case of him, he's powerful. And I could only imagine his sermons going all around the world, because they're great sermons. And so the thing is, I had to come to that process of recognizing that I needed to go through it in a healthy way, make the mistakes, make the bloopers, but I need to be able to be who God created me to be. And that is doing what I'm doing right now, speaking to you from wherever you are in the world at this time, impacting you, whether or not I make mistakes when I present. And so it's important for you to be able to know who you are, important for you to be able to go through that process and the perspective of asking questions and being open to exploring different questions, because you might be in a context where it says, hey, a woman is not supposed to be on camera, right? She's not supposed to present on a particular topic. But then God places that deep inside your heart to be able to do it. What do? Do you just sit back and relax and say, well, this is not my place. This is not what I'm supposed to do. But then you're uncomfortable in your own self, because inside, this is exactly what God is telling you to do. And so it's important for you now to be able to, explore who you are outside of the walls and outside of, the box of institutionalized thinking and so on, so that you can begin to make your impact on the world. And when I deal with women from all different parts of the world, I really encourage them to do the same thing. I want them to recognize who they are in Christ. They're princesses. You are a princess. You are a prized possession. You are the apple of God's eye. because that does not change according to any religious, societal, or whatever belief system that you may find yourself in. That is who you are, right? I want to encourage you as well to be intentional about what you believe about yourself and break free from anything that is preventing you from seeing your true identity. Because people always have some idea of who you are, or they think they have some idea of who you are more than you. So they will say things about you, they may gossip about you, they may say certain things to people, and you hear these things about yourself, and sometimes you may internalize these things, and then they affect the outcome. They affect your outcome, they affect your output, they affect how you present yourself to the world, because you are now seeing yourself through the lens of somebody who doesn't know you. You are seeing yourself through the lens of somebody who thinks that they know you, or somebody who's speaking into your life what it is they want to see happen. And then sometimes we fulfill these things because we begin to hide ourselves, put ourselves under a rock, and then we live out their prophecy in our life. So you need to break free from anything that is preventing you from seeing your true identity, anything that blocks you from seeing you for who you are and who God created you to be. You need to begin to break free of these things. A lot of us may have had parents who may have spoken things over your life. And I remember speaking to a friend recently who was sharing with me stuff that her mom said to her. And as we were speaking, I was saying to her, you know, that's not true. And I rebuke that and stuff like that. Why? Because sometimes these things stay with you your entire life. Every time you're about to make a step forward, you are hearing what this person said, who this person pronounced you to be. And one of the things that really blew my mind when I was speaking to that young woman is when she said to me, some people have already decided who you are from the time you were a child. Think about this. Some people have already decided who you are, even when you were a child. So there may be people in your family who may have seen you as a child and thought to themselves, even though you were a child, you will not become anything in life. I want you to think about these people and disappoint them by becoming somebody, because that's who you are. God has made you to be great and to have a great impact. Even though people may have thought about this about you from young, they did not know your potential. Or you know what, sometimes they actually do. They may have seen your greatness, they may have seen your potential, and they were trying to destroy it. In fact, I think the enemy was trying to destroy it through them. Because even now, sometimes when I see young children and I see them and I see the way they carry themselves, and I say, wow, this young lady, she's going to be a leader. This young lady is going to be this. You could see the qualities from young, how they carry themselves and so on. And you can see that that person will be something great. And sometimes adults who have gone through life not knowing who they are and so on may try to derail your purpose by speaking negativity into your life. And as a child, you don't know better, so you process stuff like that and it affects you. But I tell you, God has given you the mind to be able to move this stuff out of your way, because the mind that he has given you is not of fear, it's of power, it's a sound mind. So you have to be intentional about removing all of these negativities, the statements, the pronouncements, all of these things in your life, and begin to see yourself the way that you are created, and that's for greatness and stuff like that. I recently, saw a post while running through Facebook about a lady by the name of Glenn Close. She was receiving a Golden Globe Award, and she was giving her acceptance speech for the best actress by an actress in motion picture for drama. And the movie is called The Wife. I have not seen it. I have not done any research, but her words struck me. She said, I'm thinking of my mom, who really sublimated herself to my father her whole life. And in the 80s, she said to me, I feel like I haven't accomplished anything. And it was so not right. And I feel that's what I've learned from this whole experience. She was talking about her experience in developing that film for over a period of 14 years. From the whole experience, she said, women, we're nurturers. That's what's expected of us. We have our own children, we have our own husbands, if we're lucky enough, and our partners. But we have to find personal fulfillment. We have to follow our dreams. We have to say, I can do that, and I should be allowed to do that. That was her speech. Part of her speech, by the way. In the comment section below, I will put the short version. I'll also put the full length version of her speech so you can listen to it for yourself, so that you can be empowered as a woman. Because she said, when I was little, I felt like Muhammad Ali, who was destined to be a boxer. I felt destined to be an actress. I saw the early Disney films and Haley Mills, and I said, oh, I can do that. And I'm here today. It will have been 45 years in September that I'm a working actress, and I can't imagine a more wonderful life. You see, the only life that you can live that's fulfilling is the life that you're meant to live. The life that you are in when you know this is who you are and this is what you're meant to do. And so women, we have to find personal fulfillment. We have to follow our dreams. We have to say, I can do that, and I should be allowed to do that. And the only person who has the power to do that is you. God has already gifted you. He has already given you all of what you need. You have gone through so many things in life, and all of these things have created you who you are. It has really positioned you to be who you are now. Sometimes we look at the bad experiences and we think, oh, this thing happened to me. Listen, this thing has influenced who you are now, and who you are where you would not have been had it not been for what you have been through. And so we need to be able to, as women, recognize that we are here for more, that God wants us to experience personal fulfillment, that God wants us to follow our dreams. God has told us through his word. He said, I can do all things. You can do all things through him. So you can do that, and you should be allowed to do it, because after all, God is the one who has gifted you to be able to do the thing that he has prepared you for, that he has purposed you for, that he has given you the passion for, so that you can make your unique impact on the world. So who are you? You are a beautiful woman. Who are you? You are a destined woman, a woman destined for greatness, a powerful woman, a purposeful woman, a woman who has been designed by divine authority to be able to make her unique impact on the world. And so I pray that you are blessed and inspired by this, live training, and that you continue to seek out who you are. For the women who are exploring my spiritual wellness coaching program, we go much deeper into exploring who you are so that you can begin to make your unique impact on the world. It's part of the process that I take you through in the 12 weeks so that you are able to understand who you are, why you are here, and be able to work on like a big part of it, which is the second step, working on the belief systems and the indoctrinations and so on that has affected you from living the life you're supposed to live. It's a big part of the spiritual wellness coaching program. And so we go deeper in that. If you would like to know more about the spiritual wellness coaching program and how you can actually become one of my clients, so we can really help you to step out into the world being the best version of yourself. That's the version that you were created for. Then you can, inbox me for more information. But I really want to encourage you to live your best life, but you cannot do it if you don't know who you are. So take care and make sure that you explore it and you begin to work on living your wow life now. God bless. Bye-bye.